Aloha mai kako, how are you? It's my pleasure to be talking to you guys today. This is Kumui here. If that was shrill in your ear, I apologize. Make sure you turn the volume down. I'm happy to be talking to you about the high school placement test review guide your Kumu have probably given to you. I just wanted to go over some of the questions and maybe help you out, give you a little tutorial. So what do I want to call attention to on this page? These questions are expected to be done without the use of a calculator. So as you're practicing, don't use a calculator. When you take the high school placement test as well, don't use a calculator. I also want to mention this review is just meant to help you. It's meant to be a tutorial. If you still have questions, please reach out to your Kumu. We all want you to do really well on this high school placement test, but it doesn't count for your grade. So just do your best. We just want you to perform to the best of your abilities, and this review will not be comprehensive. It won't cover everything on the test, but hopefully it'll cover some important topics. Let's see. This will be time indexed in the description on YouTube, so you don't have to watch the entire video. If you are seeking support on a specific topic, you can just jump to that section of the tutorial. And if your Kumu has applied you answers, please make sure you check your answers for all these questions. Okay, so we're going to start on this topic of dividing decimals. And the question I want to work with you guys on is a sample problem. So if you need more samples, always just consult with your Kumu. But the sample I'm going to be doing is 7.5 divided by 0.25. Now, if you look at this question, there should be three ways that I like to do this question. If you want to pause the video and think about it, you're welcome to do that. But there should be three different ways we can do this question. So think about that for a moment. Okay. So I think traditionally the way you guys have probably learned how to do this question is as follows. My guess is you learned how to long divide this. So it'd be 7.5 divided by 0.25. And what you may have remembered is that we need to move the decimal on this side, okay? Move the decimal on the denominator until you get a whole number. So we're going to move it 2 spaces to the right. And what you do over here, you need to do over here as well. Okay, so the decimal gets moved there. This results in basically a new problem, and the new problem is 750 divided by 25. Okay, and that's a much more understandable problem compared to what we had earlier of 7.5 divided by 0.25. So what we're going to do here is our new problem is basically 750 divided by 25. 25 doesn't go into 7. 25 goes into 75, though, 3 times. 3 times 25 is 75. And there's going to be no remainder. So this number is a 0. So the answer to this problem is 30. Okay, like I said, there's different ways to do this problem. So here's another way we can do this problem, just keeping the same format of a numerator denominator. So we've got here 7.5 divided by 0.25. What we can basically do is transform this into equivalent fractions. So what we do is we would try to multiply top and bottom by the same number. That's how we create an equivalent fraction. In this case, we're going to multiply both top and bottom by a convenient number, and especially a number that creates all whole numbers in the result. We want whole numbers here that we can actually divide. So if we multiplied top and bottom by 10, this denominator will not be a whole number yet. It's going to result in 2.5. So what we need to do is multiply top and bottom by 100. Okay, this basically moves the decimal 2 places to the right. So we've got 750, and on the denominator we have 25. And 750 divided by 25 is 30. Notice this agrees with our earlier answer. Another way we can do this is just purely using fractions. So I said there's 3 ways. Here's 1. This one was 2. Notice doing it the second method actually explains why the first method works. Okay, 750 divided by 25. 750 divided by 25. We basically multiplied top and bottom, both numbers, by 100. There's a third way, though. And how this works is just using fractions. Fractions within fractions. So we're talking complex fractions here. So on the top we have 7.5, which is 7.5. And on the bottom we have a fourth. Okay. So 7.5 we can transform, that's a mixed number, we're going to transform it into an improper fraction, so that's 15 over 2. And the bottom we have a fourth. So what we basically have is 15 halves divided by, we have 15 halves divided by 1/4. And if we remember from the work we did at the beginning of the year, dividing by fractions, dividing by a number is like multiplying by its reciprocal. So your Kumu may have taught you that as keep, change, flip. We're going to keep this, we're going to change this, we're going to flip this. Okay, so our new resultant problem is that we've got 15 halves times 4 over 1. We could just multiply across the top and across the bottom, but we could simplify this first. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 2, and we still get an answer of 30, okay, which agrees with all the other answers earlier. So that's how you do problems like this, dividing decimals, and we encourage you to try your hand at that and check your answers if your Kumu has supplied that. Okay. Evaluating powers. All right, so the sample problem I want to work with you guys is something like 0.11 squared, 0.11 to the second power. I suspect one way you've done this in the past is just multiplying with decimals. I can show you another way with fractions, so we'll do 2 different ways to do this problem. All right, so if you recall, anything squared is that base times itself. So 0.11 squared is equal to 0.11 times 0.11. Okay, and if we long multiply, if you remember, you count how many decimals this number was away, this decimal point was away from the whole number of 11. So if we slid this to the right 2 decimal places, we'd get a whole number. And for here, it's also 2 decimal places. And if you're called, we're going to add these. So we're going to keep that number there on the side of 4. And that's how many decimal places. In the end, we need to move the result to the left in order to get the product. Okay. So if this is 11 times 11, we're just going to multiply it like we normally do. This is 121. Okay. Now 121 is not the answer because remember the question was 0.11 to the second power. 11 to the second power is 121, but what we're dealing with is 0.11 to the second power. So we need to take this answer, and the decimal is there, and move it 4, that's the significance of this number, 4 units to the left. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the left. Okay, and we backfill with a 0. So the answer is 0.0121. In other words, another way to state that is this is the tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths, 10,000ths place.